Yeah. Get your milk out, guys. Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's a special video because this is going up on a Saturday. Woo! Yeah, we haven't had one of these for like this in a while. And yeah, I have this flag, which is the first original national flag of America, introduced on June 14th of 1777 until May 1st of 1795. You'll be seeing this flag at some other undefined point on the channel. It's kind of cool. So, yeah, with that being said, today we're going to go over the current makeup of our federal government. And the reason why I wanted to do this because, well, originally I wanted to do this video about 2 weeks ago, but there were changes that happened that, happened suddenly right before I was even about to even upload. So I was like, well, okay, good thing I didn't upload it. Because everything I have here is current and up to date. So, starting out like always, Congress. We are currently in the first session of the 119th Congress. Yeah, I know we've had a lot since 1789. Going over to the upper house, which is the Senate. As of the 21st of January of this year, we have 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, 2 independents, and no vacancies. The president of the Senate is the vice president, which is currently J.D. Vance, who used to be a senator for my home state of Ohio. So yeah, I gotta rep Ohio. In the absence of the president of the Senate, there is a president pro tempore, which is more or less generally the most senior member of the Senate of the majority party. So in this case, it is currently Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, and he is a Republican. And by the way, he's 95. So just so everyone's aware. The current majority leader is Republican John Thune of South Dakota. Yep, it's not Mitch McConnell anymore. The current minority leader is Democrat Chuck Schumer of New York. Like how I said, there are no vacancies. However, 2 former members of the Senate had to resign from their seats to assume new roles. Ohio 3, which was J.D. Vance's, because, he had to resign in order to be sworn in as vice president. And Florida 3, which was once held by Marco Rubio, but he had to resign in order to become the next Secretary of State. We'll get to that later. So there are special elections going to happen in both here in Ohio and Florida on November 3rd of next year, 2026. So if you live in either one of those states, you're going to be voting in a special election for a new senator. Because even though we do have someone to fill those seats, they're only temporary. Moving over to the lower house, the House of Representatives. As of the 13th of March, so literally 3 weeks, almost 2 weeks ago, we have 218 Republicans, 213 Democrats, and 4 vacancies. Although some of them will be filled here pretty soon, but we'll get to that here in a moment. So the presiding officer of the Senate is the Speaker, which could technically be anyone, but traditionally they've always elevated someone, one of their own to that position. Although it could technically be anybody, as long as they hit the requirements in order to become president. Be 35, be a natural born citizen, and live in the U.S. for at least 14 years. As stated in the Constitution. So, the current House Speaker is Republican Mike Johnson of Louisiana's 4th District. We'll talk more about him a little later. The Majority Leader is Republican Steve Scalise, also from Louisiana, but of the 1st District. And the Minority Leader is currently Democrat Hakeem Jeffries of New York's 8th District. So, like mentioned before, we have 4 vacancies in 3 states. That's right, we have 2 in Florida, we have 1 in Texas, and we have 1 in Arizona. So, let's talk about the 2 in Florida real quick. The first one, Florida 1, its original holder, Matt Gaetz, I remember him. He resigned on November 13th of last year, before, the beginning of this Congress, and declined to take the office after being reelected. So a special election will be held on April 1st, which just so happens to be Tuesday. But we also have another election happening in Florida on the same day as well. Florida 6. Its original holder, Michael Waltz, who is, Republican. He resigned on January 20th to become the National Security Advisor to President Trump. So, a special election will also be held on Tuesday, April 1st. Alright, next up, we have Texas 18. It was held by Democrat Sylvester Turner. He died on March 5th, which is interesting because he was there in Congress the night prior of Trump's, I guess you could call it a State of Union address. But it's just a joint session of Congress where the president addresses Congress and the nation. There is no date on when that special election will occur. So whenever that happens, I'm sure I'll mention it to you guys as soon as possible. But it will more or less be... It'll be sometime soon. I assure you. When I do another video of this in, sometime in June, hopefully something will happen by then. And lastly, of the vacancies in Congress, we have Democrat Raul Grijalva. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, honestly, but he's a Democrat from Arizona 7, and he died on March 13th. And a special election will be held on September 23rd. So yeah, he's going to be vacant for a little while. For about damn near half the year. But, it is what it is, I guess. So, that's Congress. So, next up, we're going to go over to the executive branch, and we're going to talk about the current line of succession. So, like how I always do the line of succession here on the channel, I always do the actual full list, but also include the president and the chief justice, just because it's fun. So, current president, we all know it's Trump. It's been in office since January 20th. Vice president is J.D. Vance, obviously Republican. Everyone is a Republican unless stated otherwise, by the way. Vance took office January 20th as well, Uh, Speaker of the House, like I mentioned before, it is Republican Mike Johnson. He's technically been in office since the 25th of October of 2023. You know, back when they actually succeeded in voting out Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker. Yeah. I still can't believe that actually happened, because that's technically never happened before, but now it officially has. The President pro tempore of the Senate, like mentioned before, it is Senator Chuck Grassley. He's been in office since the 3rd of January, which is when this Congress opened. And now we get into the cabinet. For state, we have Marco Rubio, who took office on the 21st of January. For Treasury, we have Scott Bessent, who took office on the 28th of January. For Defense, we have Pete Hegseth, who took office on the 25th of January, which, by the way, his confirmation was the second time in American history that a cabinet secretary was, the actual vote was split 50-50, and the vice president had to split the tie. The first time that happened was, ironically, Trump's education secretary, Betsy DeVos, where it was split 50-50, and the vice president at the time, Mike Pence, had to break the tie. Same thing happened with Pete Hegseth for Defense, but instead of Pence breaking the tie, it was Vance. Attorney General is Pam Bondi. She took office on the 5th of February. Interior, we have Doug Burgum. He's been in office since the 1st of February. Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, the 13th of February. Commerce, we have Howard Lutnick, the 21st of February. For Labor, we have Lori Chavez de Reamer since the 11th of March. For Health and Human Services, we have Robert Kennedy Jr., who is an independent since the 13th of February. For Housing and Urban Development, we have Scott Turner from the 5th of February. For Transportation, we have Sean Duffy since the 28th of January. For Energy, we have Chris Wright since the 4th of February. For Education, we have Linda McHone since the 3rd of March. For Veterans Affairs, we have Doug Collins from the 5th of February. And wrapping up the actual overall list, we have Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, since the 25th of January. Now, for fun, I always like to throw in the Chief Justice, because, why not? Current Chief Justice is John Roberts, who is an independent. He's been in office for since September 29th, 2005, which means that, yes, this year he will be in office for 20 years. Yeah. And he's been in the news here recently, as you guys probably already know. I will get into that. And speaking of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, let's talk about the Supreme Court just briefly, because I'm already making the video long enough as it is, and I don't want to do that. So, like mentioned before, John Roberts is the Chief Justice. He was appointed by George W. Bush with a vote of 78-22, and, he started his term in September 29th of 2005. And then going through the Associate Justice based on seniority of when they began. Clarence Thomas, appointed by George H.W. Bush with a vote of 52-48. And he started his term on October 23rd of 1991. So yeah, he's been in office for about 30 years. Samuel Alito, appointed by George W. Bush with a vote of 58-42. He started his term on January 31st of 2006. Sonia Sotomayor, appointed by Barack Obama with a vote of 68-31. And she started her term on August 8th, of 2009. Alana Kagan, also appointed by Obama, with a vote of 63-37. And she started her term on August 7th of 2010. Neil Gorsuch, appointed by Donald Trump, with a vote of 54-45. And he started his term on April 10th of 2017. Brett Kavanaugh, also appointed by Trump, with a vote of 50-48. He started his term on October 8th of 2018. Amy Coney Barrett, also appointed by Trump, with a vote of 52-48, and she started her term on October 27th of 2020. And finally, most recently, Ketanji Brown Jackson, appointed by Joe Biden, with a vote of 53-47, and she began her term on June 30th, 2022. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the current makeup of our federal government. Hopefully everything will be correct up until this point, at least until this video goes live for you guys to watch. Hopefully. I really don't want to remake it again, because if I have to remake it, it'll have to wait until June, which is when the next one will go up. I will try to do one every 3 months or so. So, that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay classy, San Diego.